Progress Alliance is building a powerful, progressive ecosystem in Washington, supported by a network of donors who bring a fresh approach to politics. Over the last 15 years, with incredible and visionary leadership, Progress Alliance created some of the most powerful and progressive advocacy organizations, fighting for a democracy and economy that works for everyone. Our network of donors has always had the vision that progressives can do more together than we can do alone. And that means we've shown up in a way that is unique for funders. We co-strategize with our partners, we connect folks in our network, and most importantly, we look at the whole of the progressive ecosystem and move money through long-term, stable, general operating grants. This lets our grantees focus more on doing the work of leadership development, organizing and advocacy, policy development, and less time fundraising.
Progress Alliance and many of its members founded the Washington Bus in 2007. Since then, Progress Alliance has given long-term and consistent financial support to both our work and our staff. This support has allowed us to build sophisticated programs that increase voter registration among young people, turn them out to polls, and engage them on the issues that most matter to us. In 2020, the bus used peer organizing strategies. When we give the opportunity for young people to engage and when we invest in them, they show up. And that is why last year, while the statewide voter turnout amongst young people was a record-breaking 73%, those engaged by the bus voted at a rate of 83%.
Our partnership with the Progress Alliance has enabled myself and SIX more broadly to connect with a network of progressive partners across the state and really support in a large way the progressive infrastructure of our movement here in Washington. Being able to work with the donors and other grantees that really make up the Progress Alliance family made it possible to hit the ground running and start making changes to the way that business is done in Olympia. The work I'm most proud of is probably the work that I've done over the last year and a half alongside a huge number of partners here in Washington to revive the largest coalition for progressive state revenue. In 2021, it has led the way to the largest transformation of our tax code in nearly a century, and will have been responsible for a huge step forward in economic and social justice through our state budget.
Sage's mission is to chart a path to a living economy where Black, Indigenous, people of color, workers, and families thrive. We do that by building power in community to influence, lead, and govern. At Sage Leaders, we've developed a leadership development pipeline for BIPOC leaders that ranges from applying for and serving on public boards and commissions to running for elected office to learning how to govern as a new elected official. And so far, we have trained and placed over 100 community leaders onto public boards and commissions. Progress Alliance bet on our vision to root candidate support and training in BIPOC communities and helped us make that vision a reality. I'm really proud of the way that Puget Sound Sage has shown up for our communities during the pandemic. Because our policy and our organizing is rooted in impacted communities, that makes our work much more time and staff intensive. And that is why Progress Alliance's sustained general operating support has been critical in 2020 to allow us to do the work the way that we know best, which is on our community's terms and timeline.
When WCA first came together in 2019, we were really concerned about what had been a multi-year, essentially insidious campaign to ethnically cleanse our democracy, whether that's removing immigrants physically from the place they had called home through deportation, and now this massive campaign to rig the census and not count communities of color into our democracy in the first place. Progress Alliance allowed us to do was be able to build the infrastructure for that coalition through some of the first funding that we were able to get. And that got multiplied many times over when we were able to secure funding from the state millions of dollars to do deep relational organizing across dozens of counties in our state, which became one of the largest relational organizing campaigns in our state's history, and took Washington State from being among the bottom 30 states in census response in 2010 to leading the country with the second highest rate of response.
I'm most proud of the work that we've done together to begin to transform Washington State's tax code. This has been something that we at the Budget and Policy Center have been working on for the entire existence of our organization. And together with Progress Alliance, really shining a light on the inequity in our state tax code, how it disproportionately impacts low-income communities and Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities, and really working to fight for the policy changes at the state level that will make it into an equitable system. And throughout this fight, Progress Alliance has been there the entire time. That includes the Progress Alliance members themselves, providing testimony, writing letters to legislators, being a voice in the media about really this vision of the type of state that we want to be and what a tax code looks like that lives up to that vision. And now in 2021, we're on the cusp of historic progress. The legislature passed the Working Families Tax Credit this year, putting money back in the pockets of 400,000 households across Washington State. And we are seeing monumental progress on tax and capital gains in our state.
Progress Alliance support has been tremendous for us. What it's meant is that instead of having to chase money just to keep our doors open, we've been able to actually do the work in community. We were able to do a lot of work in the legislature around police accountability bills and trans health care. So the grants from Progress Alliance really allowed us to dig into the work that we were doing around police accountability. And for the LGBTQ community, people sometimes ask, why is police accountability so important to you? And I remind them that Stonewall, just over 50 years ago, was a result of police brutality and the policing of our identities and our bodies. And so we have to stand up and stand with our communities to ensure that policing is fair and it's bias-free.
At the Communications Hub, we train progressive communicators how to tell great stories about their policy work. The Progress Alliance has given us not only the financial support, but the big picture thinking and the strategy to truly change the way that the progressive community approaches their communications across Washington State. The work that I'm the most proud of at the Communications Hub is what we have done to bring the race-class narrative to Washington State in 2020, and in 2021, developing that into a statewide training program. The race-class narrative is an empirically tested form of storytelling that centers race, class, and gender when we are talking about our policy work. And because the Communications Hub has trained communicators and nonprofit staff all across Washington to use the heroes narrative, this new tool is just the next step in our narrative work and our storytelling. We know that to have a truly equitable democracy, we cannot allow the unequal outcomes along the lines of race, gender, and class to persist. That means we have to pivot the work that we do. So we invest in leaders of color to engage young people in politics. We invest in leaders of color to organize in their communities for policy solutions and accountability. And we proudly put racial equity in the center of our strategy exactly because that focus has long been a gap for political funders and the progressive ecosystem. Our network knows that elections matter, but we also know that winning is more than electoral politics alone. Truly winning means having a network of progressive organizations who can coordinate, strategize, and act together. Winning means strengthening government through powerful community participation, ensuring that communities are resourced and connected so that they can speak for themselves. Winning means creating a representative democracy through electing candidates of color. And winning means that we think about the support progressive champions need to govern after they've won. Progress Alliance is investing in the right organizations and the right people to sustain our progressive future. Join us and let's win together.